All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, play fast football. All right, national championship game last night. Obviously, it's the end of the college football season. Couple things to talk about from the game last night, so I'm going to do a video talking about my thoughts on some of the things I observed in the national championship game. Obviously, I hadn't had a chance to go back and rewatch the entire thing from multiple angles, but I'm just going to give you some of my initial thoughts on the national championship game, what it means for the end of college football season now, and where it puts us as coaches during what, to me, is one of my favorite times of year, the off-season. When you break down in-season, off-season, I absolutely love the off-season for a lot of reasons, and I'll get into some of that here. Make sure you check out some of our sponsors. GameStrat is the sideline replay system we use. If you're looking for a highly reliable, highly affordable sideline replay system, make sure you check out GameStrat. In the description box below this video, I will put a link that takes you directly to GameStrat's website. If you're interested in maybe looking at what they do or what they have to offer, make sure you click on that link. JustPlayFB is a digital software that we use to take our program to the next level. It's what I use to draw our diagram plays. If I'm speaking at clinics or doing webinars, it's the only play, draw, diagram tool that I use. So make sure you check out JustPlayFB. DifferenceUSA, all right, which is the ultimate striking machine. We have one in our weight room that we're going to use a bunch when our off-season workouts start next week. Getting thousands of reps without needing a partner. You don't need a med ball. You don't need a hand shield or a partner to hold a bag. You're getting thousands of reps in the weight room. Elbows in, thumbs up, working on proper striking mechanics to get your kids a little bit better at the technical, fundamental side of striking and trying to become more explosive as an athlete. So make sure you check out DifferenceUSA. All right, so and just looking at some things with the national championship game, here's some of my thoughts on what transpired last night. First of all, we just came off a video where I talked about learning from the NFL, and I talked about how the Tennessee Titans won 2 playoff games with less than 200 yards passing. And last night, LSU comes out and says you can win throwing the football. All right, so last night is a dramatic change from what we talked about with the Tennessee Titans. All right, in 2 games not throwing the ball for 200 yards in 2 NFL playoff games and still finding a way to beat the Patriots and the Ravens and Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson without throwing for 200 yards in combined 2 playoff games. But then LSU comes and goes 31 for 49 for 463 and 5 touchdowns. So such a completely different and you know, drastic change in approach to a football game with how the Titans are winning their 2 playoff games and how LSU got to win the national championship game and what they did to win the national championship game last night. And along those lines, the rushing numbers were actually almost identical. I think Clemson had 160 and LSU had 165 on the ground. All right, so the interesting thing is LSU was not only able to throw it for 463, but the tailback had, you know, 110 or 113, and the quarterback had 55 or somewhere around there. So they had a tailback and a quarterback, you know, a tailback with 110 or 113 yards and a quarterback with over 50 yards rushing on top of 463 passing, which makes them a little bit more balanced per se. All right, but they threw the ball, all right, for the numbers that they threw it, coming from a school that, quote-unquote, for a long time in the SEC West was probably considered 3 yards in a cloud of dust and maybe old-fashioned. So LSU won a national championship, all right, by bringing in a guy with some pro-style backgrounds that I'm going to talk about in a minute, and throwing the football at a place where that was maybe frowned upon in previous years in their approach to playing football. But yet, with the talent that they had and the quarterback that they had, they took a different approach and ended up getting themselves a national championship. All right, my point in this, and my point has always been, is winning is the be-all, end-all. And there's several different ways to get there. Just make sure whatever you do gets you to that point. So, you know, it's so interesting in football to be able to use so many different theories and philosophies and approaches to get to the end result. So here's a team that was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, smash mouth, run the ball, tailback orientated for so long, and all of a sudden they make a change and they win a national championship. Right? Wrong? I don't know, but I think the result was pretty good for LSU, so it's hard to argue with the result that they got. You know, I'm not here to say which is better than the other because I've talked in multiple videos about there's several different ways to skin a cat and win football games, and Tennessee Titans are winning one way. LSU just won a national championship a completely different way last night. So I think that just further goes to show you that, you know, on offense, there's a lot of different mentalities, philosophies, ways to attack. Bottom line is if you do it well with the right players, you can win games. All right, so, you know, there is no true style or one style of play, which makes football so unique. All right? Got to have the ability to adapt to situations. Okay, you look at Dave Aranda, you look at Brent Venables, two of the most well-known, highly respected defensive coordinators in the game. Brent Venables has coached in 8 national championship games, and you watch how drastically different some of the stuff they were trying to do last night might have been compared to what you would consider their base defense or their base package. Okay, why is that? Because the offenses that they were facing were so dynamic that they felt like they probably needed to become a little bit more dynamic on the defensive side. Okay, the other thing that goes into that, in my opinion, is when you have 2 weeks in between games or however many days to get ready to play that, and even on top of that, probably, you know, a month or so when the playoff seedings come out, you probably have analysts and people on your staff that are already breaking down Ohio State and Clemson to get ready to face either one. And then when you find out it's Clemson, you have 2 weeks, all right? Or when you find out it's LSU, you have 2 weeks to prepare. So I feel these guys probably felt like, hey, they've had a lot of time to break down our stuff. We're going to have to do some things within our scheme a little bit different. Now, I'm not saying that they changed their whole scheme, but they adapted their scheme to fit, you know, probably the personnel and the dynamic nature of the offense to come up with a few wrinkles and some things that they felt were going to be good on defense. Now, whether or not that worked out in a 42-25 game, obviously it worked for LSU. You can say it did or it didn't work for Clemson. I think early in the game it worked real well for Clemson, and then give LSU credit because they had the ability to adapt what they needed to do on offense to fix some protections and get some guys open and let Joe Burrow be the quarterback that he is. So, you know, the ability to adapt what you're doing to fit all different circumstances and have whatever your quote-unquote system on offenses and defenses, having something that can be adaptable to circumstances based on personnel that you have and skill sets of the kids you have, and being able to adapt to dynamic situations, whether it be a dynamic offense or a situation where somebody has 3 weeks to prepare. I think, you know, the ability to adapt for those guys who, you know, you could argue with the talent that those schools have, you know, they could probably play defense or offense however they wanted to, but they choose a certain way to play it, but yet they have wrinkles, adjustments, and the ability to adapt within those systems because of the complex nature in each situation that they're dealing with. All right, so interesting chess match last night. You know, the wrinkles off of 2 weeks and 2 weeks to prepare for a game and who was going to be ready for what. And at the end of the day, I guarantee you they both played their base structures. They just might have found a different way to present it, or they might have changed some tendencies, whether it be blitz or how many you're rushing or how many you're dropping. But I guarantee you they still played defense the way they've always played it. They just wrinkled it a little bit. And they still played offense the way they always played it. They just wrinkled it a little bit because of the nature of weeks off to prepare and maybe a month to get ready for 2 different teams that you may face. So, you know, those guys are so good at taking what they do and presenting it in a different way so that their kids still play, you know, fast physical football, but they're able to change the picture and the presentation of what they're doing. You know, to me it makes, you know, I use the word dynamic, but it just makes them so dynamic on offense, defense, and they just have the ability to do slight things different to make it seem different while their kids are still playing a lot of the same techniques. So it's amazing to watch what the best in the business are able to do. All right, pro style plus space. I think you saw LSU, obviously the talk all year was going out and getting Joe Brady to help with the passing game. Joe Brady comes from the Saints with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and he brings a pro style passing attack to LSU, combined with, you know, how physical LSU always was in a run game and the types of offensive linemen that they have. Now you take this great receiving core with, you know, a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school that was at Ohio State originally, and you take that whole dynamic and you put a pro-style passing game looking for matchups and trying to create matchups formationally, and then adding the space of dynamic players and where you're getting those players in space. And, you know, at times last night, some of those guys from LSU just making some of the guys from Clemson, and vice versa on both ends it happened, but, you know, at times they're in open space making defenses look so bad because that combination of a pro-style passing attack or a pro-style offensive system with those types of players in space is a really, really tough to combat deadly situation for defensive coordinators. When you're getting guys with that skill level and you're finding ways to draw matchups and then get those guys in space one-on-one with people, it's just really a nightmare for defenses. And let's face it, you know, these two teams are blue bloods. with the players that they have, they could run anything that they want to, and they could make it look really good, and they would be really good on offense, doing anything they want to. So it's not as much about the system as it is the fact why they choose to run what they run, and it's very simple. When you look at the amount of blue chip players that are on that roster, you could say that they can run any system they want and be successful, and I will agree with that 100%. But here's what I will say. If they ran any other system, would they have all those 4 or 5-star players? Because that's why they run what they run, because it gives them the ability to go out and get blue chip players at every position. So what they do on offense creates a situation where they can go out and recruit big-time tailbacks and big-time wide receivers and tight ends and big-time linemen and portray an image to them that this system is going to be able to showcase all of your skill sets. Whereas at other places that use, we've talked a little bit about air raid, and we've talked about flex bone or, heavy run orientated offenses, and those programs do a great job within their structure and their recruiting landscape to have success within a program that probably needs to be done or run a certain way with certain systems because of the kids they have to recruit. So these blue bloods with blue chip players could probably run whatever they wanted, and I alluded to this in an earlier video that we did about it. They could run any offense they want and make it look great. But could they get all those players that they have on the roster to run any offense? Could they get them all there if they were running a different offense? If they were an air raid team, would they get the dynamic tailbacks that they've had in the past? Probably not. If they're a flex bone team or some type of, old-fashioned wing tee, single wing team, would they get the wideouts that they have? Probably not. So the fact that they have them all leads you to believe that they could run whatever they want. But I'm gonna take it from a recruiting standpoint and say the reason that they run what they do is so that they can sell it to every position group so that they can recruit blue chippers at every position group. Doesn't make it right or wrong. Doesn't make systems, in my opinion, one system better than the other or one system the be-all, end-all. Bottom line is you got to win where you're at and figure out how you're going to win where you're at. But when you get a chance to analyze, like I like to do in an opinion basis, it's just my opinion, when you analyze NFL games or college games, I think there's a reason that they run what they run. And a lot of it has to do with recruiting so they can get these big-time blue-chip players. But man, was it interesting to see that pro-style attack and what LSU brought, all right, with Joe Brady from the New Orleans Saints and his 2 years under Sean Payton and 2 years with Drew Brees and what they do in the NFL. That style that he brought to LSU, man, was it dynamic, and boy, was it tough to stop. They may go down as the best offense ever in college football history. So interesting to see what that pro style looked like with all those blue chip players running around and then creating formational matchups in space and seeing what those guys do in space. It's just a nightmare. And then add that to the fact that their quarterback is an athlete that can run. And a lot of the big plays, especially on third down at the end of the first half last night, were drawing matchups outside, maybe even going empty to get into certain coverage looks you want, and then running the quarterback. So that dynamic right there is makes things so tough on a defense when you got a pro-style passing attack, formationally creating matchups, and then a quarterback that can not only run but extend plays. Just a nightmare for defenses, and you can see why LSU was so good at what they did this year. All right, and then the simple fact that football is just awesome. We all love it for the same reason. That chess match, that mental approach to how one team is going to deal with another team. Okay, and the lead up and the build up to those things, and how are they going to fare against this offense, and how are they going to fare against this defense, and what is this coordinator going to do to answer, and what is this coordinator going to do to answer their answers. Football's awesome. There's so many different ways to do it. It's not a mundane game that says everybody runs this and everybody runs this, and it's the same every week, the same plays, the same formations, the same calls, the same defenses, the same fronts, the same coverages. No, it's ever changing. Everybody's trying to stay one step ahead of the curve. All right, one of the things that I loved last night was looking at LSU and getting into condensed squeeze sets to maybe elicit some rubs that are going to happen, and then the defense, because everybody remembers the national championship game 2 or 3 years ago when the last drive Clemson scores with 10 seconds left or whatever it is on a sprint out pick rub play, and everybody's now worried about the rub and man-to-man, and we got to find ways to bracket and deal with that. Well, now they're giving you splits and divider rules that say, hey, we may want to bracket this. Look at these splits. They're about to rub. And then they're coming together as if they're going to rub and then returning back and running routes at the original position that they're in. So now the defense is looking at it to say, hey, we're going to bracket this. They start to show the rub, the defense brackets, and then guys return to their original position to run their routes, on 2 on the inside, 1 on the outside, and the defense is lost. All right, and then Clemson ran a great playoff. You know, not the first time I've seen it, but off the mesh play, they ran like a mesh whip return where one of the mesh guys put his foot in the ground and returned to be a high guy on top of the low mesh coming from the other side. So they meshed, and then this guy whipped back to the top, all right, trying to stay one step ahead of how defenses are trying to handle what you're doing. Makes the game, you know, so much different in that aspect, which makes it just, to me, you know, as a coach, the best game around. There's so many things that go into the mental side of coaching, and that's why we all love it, and that's why we do what we do. And to me, that's what makes the offseason so great, and why I love the offseason so much is now we get a chance to analyze with no games on, to get caught up in watching just games. Now we get to go back and watch game film, and we get to study things we want to study, and we get to approach the offseason and learn things that we want to learn. All right, and why is that great? It doesn't matter what system you run. It doesn't matter what you want to do on offense. You want knowledge that you don't have to use at your high school or your program, but if I go somewhere, I want to be able to sit in on a conversation with people. So I want to learn things about all kinds of different structures so that if I go talk to somebody, I may not use that at my school, and a lot of the knowledge that I pick up in the off-season, I may never, you know, put into my system, but I want it for myself so that I can be relevant in conversations with other people. I want to be able to go and share knowledge with people and talk about things that they do and why they do them, and I want to be able to understand the conversation. So I'm always going to study various things that I'm interested in, things that I want to help my program here, but then I'm going to look at other things that I may not be able to use in my program, but I want to study them because I want to talk to great minds out there that have a different way of approaching football on offense or defense, and I want to be able to sit in on that conversation without being completely lost to then make the determination of whether or not I want to use that stuff. All right, so football itself is such an awesome game. So many ways to skin a cat. The end result is you got to win. How you get to that end result is so unique. I described it on Twitter today as a golf swing to me. You can look at all the greatest players. You can go from Arnold Palmer to Jack Nicklaus to Tiger Woods to Ben Hogan to Bobby Jones. You look at all the greatest players, again, you know, Lee Trevino, Gary Player, guys that approach the game in a different manner. They had different swings, but yet at impact, it's the same result. They all do what they do to get the club back to impact, however they did it. Arnold Palmer might have been as drastic as anybody with his swing, but yet he's one of the best to ever do it. Because at impact, he's like nobody else. Didn't matter how he got it there, where he took it to get it there, but at impact, that's the same thing in football. The end result is winning and winning a national championship. However LSU goes to get there, or however North Dakota State goes to get there to become one of the best dynasties ever in college football, what matters is where they got to. They can take a different approach to get there. You know, if what they're doing works and they have the players to do it and they're passionate about it and they can sell it and coach it to their players, there's so many different avenues to get us to the same result, which in football obviously is winning. All right, so with that being said, we got our first Play Fast Football Clinic coming up next week, January 24th, 25th, 26th. It's going to be awesome. We got a great lineup of high school-only speakers. We got a great venue, Embassy Suites in St. Augustine Beach. Very much looking forward to it. It's been about a year in the making, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking now getting this close, but I am looking forward to it from a business side. I am not a major speaker at the clinic. I am going to do one Sunday morning session. It's just a thank you to people that have followed Play Fast Football, but this clinic isn't about me. This clinic isn't about my opinion. This is my way to put on a clinic for coaches to help grow the game and the coaching profession. So I'm not even interested in being a major speaker at this clinic. I want to listen and put other people on and sit back and run it as a business. So it's going to be awesome, a little bit nerve-wracking. Some other sponsors that we got out there, make sure you check out Max One, streamlining organization, communication, practice plans, calendars, schedules, workouts, all into one platform, making things easy for a head coach. So make sure you check out, all right, Max One, defensive coordinator. One, I wore the shirt yesterday, doing some great things with an in-game app that lets you make critical in-game adjustments based on actual live in-game data. So I think that's a tremendous asset to have if you have the system that can operate it and input the data correctly. All right, and also Dome Hats, which is major sponsor of Play Fast Football. This is my Orange Park, our current high school hat, swords up on the back. But major sponsor of Play Fast Football, my hat company, my headwear company, custom online hat builder where you can change anything you want, change the panels. All right, we got a black, black button at the top. We got the black Dome logo. We could change that. Got the orange brim, orange bill. We could change the underneath, the top. All right, the logo obviously is our custom logo. So just a great product, great company, great people, so make sure you check out Dome Hats. A lot of those companies that I mentioned will be at the clinic, so Dome Hats will be there. Max One's going to do some work with us. They can't be at the clinic, but they're going to do some work with us to get the word out on their product. Defense Coordinator One will be there. Game Strat will be there, so it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a great clinic, and we are looking forward to it. Make sure you click the subscribe button. Make sure you turn the notifications on. Ring that bell so you know every time we put out a video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, interact. That lets us know what we need to do different. Comment. I try to respond to every comment that's out there, so make sure, all right, you are leaving comments, and I will get back to you as long as I can read them and see them, and they get posted to my account. I will respond to everything I can. 7 years in the making, all right, over 17,000 subscribers now. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. Thank you so much for following Play Fast and checking these videos out. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. Catch you guys next time.